Stop selling products, start solving painful problems. What if the reason you're broke isn't because you lack talent, but because you're solving problems nobody actually loses sleep over? Here's the brutal truth that most people never want to hear. The market doesn't care about your passion. The market doesn't care about your dreams. The market doesn't care about how many hours you stayed up building your little side hustle. The market only cares about one thing: pain, specifically your ability to identify pain so sharp, so devastating, so financially or emotionally costly that people will literally throw money at whoever can make it stop. Think about it this way. Nobody wakes up at 3 a.m. sweating because they need a lifestyle brand. But people wake up at 3 a.m. terrified about losing their business, their marriage, their health. That's where money lives. That's where millions are hiding. The difference between a struggling entrepreneur and a wealthy one isn't intelligence, connections, or luck. It's problem selection. Wealthy people find problems that are urgent, expensive, and embarrassing. If someone is bleeding financially, emotionally, or physically, and you can stop that bleeding, they will pay you extraordinary amounts of money without negotiating. Most beginners make the catastrophic mistake of creating solutions first and then searching for problems to attach them to. That's backwards. Find the wound first, then sell the bandage. The deeper the wound, the higher the price. The value equation: make your offer impossible to refuse. What if you could make your offer so irresistible that saying no felt physically painful to your prospect? Most people think sales is about convincing people. It's not. Real sales is about constructing an offer so perfectly calibrated to what someone desperately wants that the decision becomes automatic. There are 4 levers that determine the perceived value of any offer you ever make. First, the dream outcome. What does your customer secretly fantasize about achieving? Not what they say they want in public, but what they whisper to themselves at night. Second, the perceived likelihood of achievement. Do they actually believe your solution will work for them specifically, not for others, for them? Third, the time delay. How long between when they pay you and when they get the result? The shorter the gap, the higher the price you can charge. Fourth, the effort and sacrifice required. The less they have to do, the more valuable your offer becomes. People don't want work. They want results delivered in a limousine. Now here's where it gets powerful. Most entrepreneurs compete on price because they never learn to engineer value. They discount instead of adding. But every time you discount, you're essentially telling the market your product wasn't worth the original price. Instead, stack so much value, add so many bonuses, remove so much risk that your price looks embarrassingly small compared to what they receive. That's the formula. Dream outcome times likelihood divided by time and effort equals value. Maximize the top, minimize the bottom, print money. Volume cures everything. The anti-luck philosophy. What if luck was just a story losers told themselves to explain why someone else succeeded? Here's something most motivational speakers will never tell you because it destroys their entire narrative. Luck doesn't scale, but volume does. The person who sends 100 cold emails and gets no response calls it bad luck. The person who sends 10,000 cold emails understands it's a math problem, not a destiny problem. The fastest way to your first million isn't finding the right opportunity. It's taking so many swings that statistically, multiple opportunities have no choice but to land. Think about it through the lens of probability. If your close rate is 10% and you need 10 clients to hit your income goal, you don't need better luck. You need to talk to 100 people instead of 10. This is what separates wealthy people from people who dream about wealth. Wealthy people understand that failure is just data. Every rejection teaches you something. Every lost sale shows you a weakness in your offer, your delivery, or your targeting. But you can only collect that data through volume. You cannot learn from conversations you never have. The market rewards speed and volume above almost everything else. Not perfection, not preparation, not waiting for the stars to align. The greatest business sin you can commit is paralysis. Every day you spend planning instead of executing is a day your competitors are collecting data, refining their offers, and banking your potential customers. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is built from 1,000 imperfect actions taken at high velocity. Retention over acquisition, the hidden $1 million secret. What if the $1 million you're desperately chasing is already sitting inside your existing customer base, completely ignored? Everyone obsesses over getting new customers. Facebook ads, cold outreach, content creation, referral programs, all designed to bring in new blood. And while acquisition matters, it's retention that builds empires. Here's the math that will change how you see your entire business forever. Acquiring a new customer costs 5 to 7 times more than keeping an existing one. Read that again, 5 to 7 times more, which means every customer you lose represents not just lost revenue, it represents the future revenue you'll have to spend acquiring their replacement, plus the cost of that acquisition itself. Now flip this around. If you could reduce your churn by just 20% and increase your average customer lifetime value by 30%, your revenue doesn't grow linearly. It compounds. Because retained customers buy again. They refer others. They become case studies. They become the social proof that lowers your acquisition cost for every future customer. The businesses that hit $1 million and stay there understand one sacred truth. The money isn't in the transaction, it's in the relationship. Your goal isn't to close a sale. Your goal is to create a customer experience so transformative that leaving you feels like self-sabotage. This means delivering results that exceed promises, underpromise, massively overdeliver. Make your customers feel like they stole from you. When they feel that way, they stay forever, and they bring everyone they know. Skills stack, the compounding asset. Nobody talks about. What if the most valuable investment you could make isn't in stocks, crypto, or real estate, but in the skills that generate all those things in the first place? Here's a dangerous idea that will free you or paralyze you depending on your mindset. You are currently being paid exactly what the market believes your skills are worth, not a dollar more, not a dollar less. The market is coldly, brutally accurate in its assessment of your value. And if you don't like what the market is paying you, the only ethical solution is to become more valuable. Skills compound exactly like money does. One skill alone has limited earning power. But stack 3 or 4 complementary skills, say copywriting plus sales psychology plus business operations, and your value doesn't add. It multiplies, because now you can do things that specialists in any single discipline cannot do alone. The most dangerous thing a young entrepreneur can do is specialize too early without building the foundational skills that generate revenue in any environment. Can you sell? Can you write persuasively? Can you manage people? Can you read financial statements? Can you build systems that run without you? These are not optional executive skills. These are survival skills. Every skill gap you have is a tax on your earning potential. Every hour you spend consuming entertainment instead of developing capability is compounding against you. The person who reads 1 book per week on business, psychology, and sales for 5 years isn't just smarter. They're operating in a completely different universe than their past self. Invest ruthlessly in yourself before you invest in anything else. Identity level thinking. Become the person who makes millions before you make millions. What if the only real barrier between you and your first million isn't strategy, but the story you believe about who you are? This is the one nobody wants to hear because it requires the most uncomfortable kind of work. You can have the perfect offer, you can have the traffic, you can have the systems, but if your internal identity, the story you tell yourself about what you deserve, what's possible for you, what kind of person makes millions, if that story is broken, everything built on top of it will eventually collapse. Most people unconsciously believe wealth belongs to other types of people. People born into it. People who got lucky, people who are smarter, more connected, more talented. And because they believe this, they self-sabotage at the precise moment success becomes real. They unconsciously recreate their financial comfort zone because anything beyond it feels foreign and dangerous. Wealthy people don't think differently because they have money. They have money because they think differently. They see opportunity while others see obstacles. They move toward problems while others retreat from them. They are comfortable with discomfort because they understand that discomfort is the tuition fee for growth. The practical application here is simple but demanding. You must make decisions today as the person you intend to become, not as the person you currently are. Would the $1 million version of you take this meeting, make this investment, have this conversation, do this workout, act from that identity long enough, consistently enough, and reality has no choice but to catch up with it? What if I told you that the $1 million you've been chasing your entire life was never hiding in some secret strategy, some exclusive mastermind, some lucky break that only happens to other people? What if the truth was far more brutal and far more liberating than anything you've ever been told? What if the only thing standing between you and financial freedom wasn't the economy, wasn't your background, wasn't the fact that you didn't go to the right school or know the right people, but simply the way you've been thinking about money, value, and what you actually deserve? What if luck was a lie, specifically engineered to keep people comfortable with mediocrity? What if the people you admire, the ones driving the cars you screenshot, living in the houses you daydream about, building the businesses you study at midnight, what if they didn't get there because the universe smiled at them, but because they understood a small set of principles that most people never discover? What if those principles were available to you right now in the next few minutes? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will either make you deeply uncomfortable or completely set you free. And both of those reactions mean it's working. What if making your first million had absolutely nothing to do with luck? I know, that's a dangerous sentence. Because luck is comfortable. Luck is the story we tell ourselves when someone else wins and we want a reason that doesn't implicate us. Luck means it was outside our control. Luck means we couldn't have done anything differently. Luck is the most expensive story you will ever believe because it cost you everything. Your ambition, your urgency, and ultimately your potential. So let's destroy it. Right now, together, stop selling products nobody needs and start solving problems that keep people awake at 3 a.m. That's where money lives, not in your passion projects, not in your beautiful little aesthetic brand with the perfectly curated Instagram feed. Money lives in pain, specifically in the gap between where someone is and where they desperately, urgently need to be. The market is not a feelings-based system. The market is a pain relief system. And the more acute the pain, the more money flows toward whoever can stop it. Most beginners enter a market with a solution and then search backwards for a problem to justify it. That's why most beginners fail. The correct sequence is ruthlessly simple. Find bleeding, stop bleeding, charge accordingly. The deeper the wound, the higher the price the market will enthusiastically pay without negotiating, without asking for discounts, without needing you to justify your value. People don't negotiate when they're in the emergency room. They don't ask the surgeon for a payment plan before their heart surgery. They need the pain to stop, and they need it to stop now. Your job is to make your offer feel like emergency surgery for the exact problem your market is experiencing. Identify the wound. Position yourself as the only credible doctor. Walk in with confidence, because confidence in your solution is part of the solution. Now here's where most people who understand the problem still fail. They build a decent offer and then they wonder why nobody's buying. The answer almost always comes down to offer engineering. Your offer is not your product. Your offer is the complete package of everything someone receives when they say yes to you. The outcome, the experience, the certainty, the speed, the removal of effort on their part. Most people compete on price because they never learned to compete on value. And competing on price is a race to the bottom that nobody wins except the customers. There are exactly 4 dimensions that determine how valuable your offer feels in the mind of your prospect. The dream outcome, what they want more than anything, the perceived probability that they'll actually achieve it with your help, the time delay between purchase and result, and the effort required on their part. Engineer all 4 intelligently, and your price becomes almost irrelevant because the value is so obviously overwhelming that saying no starts to feel financially irresponsible. Stack guarantees, remove risk, add bonuses that cost you almost nothing but are worth enormous amounts to your customer. Make the decision automatic, make the yes feel inevitable. But here's where the real separation happens between the person who makes $1 million and the person who reads about making $1 million for their entire life. Volume. Relentless, unglamorous, humbling volume. Luck is what happens when you take 5 swings at a problem. Math is what happens when you take 5,000. The entrepreneur who cold emails 100 people and gets rejected calls it a bad niche. The entrepreneur who cold emails 10,000 people understands they're running a statistical experiment that the market is obligated to eventually validate. Every rejection is data. Every lost sale is a case study in what to fix. Every uncomfortable conversation is a rep in the gym of your selling ability. The market rewards speed and volume above polish and perfection. Your competitors right now, the ones who are quietly building while you're still perfecting your logo and your brand colors and your website copy, they are collecting data at high velocity. They are getting better in real time. They are learning things in a single month of aggressive action that would take you years of planning to theorize about. And by the time you feel ready, they will be so far ahead of you that catching up will require double the effort. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Execute imperfectly and then improve with the data the market gives you. This is not optional advice. This is the entire game. And once you have customers, protect them like they are the most valuable asset your business will ever own, because they are. Everyone obsesses over acquisition, new leads, new traffic, new customers, but here is the math that genuinely changes everything. Acquiring a new customer costs 5 to 7 times more than retaining an existing one. Every customer you lose isn't just lost revenue. It's the future revenue you'll have to spend replacing them, plus the acquisition cost of their replacement. It's a double penalty that compounds against you silently every single month. The businesses that build durable wealth understand something most beginners never grasp. The money isn't in the transaction. The money is in the relationship that the transaction begins. Your job isn't to close a sale. Your job is to deliver such an extraordinary transformation that your customer feels guilty about what they paid you. When they feel that way, they stay forever. They refer their colleagues, their friends, their family. They become walking billboards for your business, and they do it voluntarily, enthusiastically, and for free. Under-promise, massively over-deliver, make your customers feel like they robbed you, build a reputation so strong that leaving you feels like self-destruction. Now, while your business compounds externally through customers and revenue, you must compound internally through skills. Because here is the uncomfortable reality that nobody posts on social media. You are being paid exactly what the market believes your skills are worth, not what you believe you deserve, not what your parents told you you were capable of. What the market, in its cold and accurate judgment, has decided your actual contribution is worth. And if you don't like that number, there is only one ethical solution: become more valuable. One skill has limited earning power, but stack copywriting with sales psychology, with operational thinking, with leadership capability, and your value doesn't add, it multiplies. Because you can now do things that pure specialists cannot do alone. You become rare, and rare things command extraordinary prices. Read obsessively. Study psychology, sales, business, human behavior. Every book you read is a conversation with someone who spent decades learning something you can absorb in 8 hours. Every skill gap you have is a tax on your income. Every hour you spend on entertainment instead of capability development is a vote for your current financial reality continuing indefinitely. Invest in yourself before you invest in anything else, because every return in the external world begins with an investment in your internal world. And finally, the most important principle, the one that determines whether everything else actually works or whether you self-sabotage at the moment, success becomes real. You must become the person who makes millions before you make millions. Identity is not a soft concept. Identity is the most powerful force in human behavior. What you believe you are, you will inevitably become. What you believe you deserve, you will unconsciously engineer your life to provide. Most people carry a broken money story, a quiet, deeply held belief that wealth belongs to a different type of person. Someone smarter, luckier, better connected, born into the right circumstances. And because they believe this unconsciously, they destroy their own success at the exact moment it arrives. They make self-sabotaging decisions. They underprice their offers. They quit before the results come. They stay in their financial comfort zone because wealth beyond it feels foreign, threatening, and somehow wrong. Here is the correction. Make every decision today as the person you intend to become. Would the million-dollar version of you take this meeting? Send this email? Have this uncomfortable conversation? Make this investment in your skills? Go to the gym? Read the book instead of watching the show? Act from that identity. Consistently. Without exception. Reality will have no choice but to rearrange itself around who you've decided to be. The $1 million isn't luck. It was never luck. It's a problem you solve, an offer you engineer, volume you commit to, customers you protect, skills you stack, and an identity you choose before the evidence arrives. Everything we've covered today connects to one central, liberating truth. Making your first million is not a matter of fortune. It is a matter of decision. The decision to find real pain and solve it powerfully. The decision to engineer offers so compelling that refusal becomes irrational. The decision to take massive volume of action and use rejection as data instead of evidence of defeat. The decision to protect and serve your existing customers with the same intensity you use to acquire new ones. The decision to invest relentlessly in your own skill stack until the market has no choice but to pay you what you deserve. And ultimately, the decision to become, in your thoughts, your choices, and your daily actions, the exact person who builds that level of wealth before the bank account reflects it. Every single principle we discussed today is executable. None of them require connections. None of them require inheritance. None of them require luck. They require clarity, commitment, and the courage to act while everyone around you is still waiting for the perfect moment. That moment is not coming, but you are. Start now.